Over the last 6 months or so, Pole Position have been sending me loads of different items of tackle or luggage and all sorts, and I've been very impressed with all the stuff they've been sending me. And today they've sent me this, or 2 packs of these to be precise, the Grip-On Safeweights, available in 0.35 ounce and 0.5 ounce. They're essentially a backlead, but I'll get onto all the details you need to know about these in a second. But before we do that, please just take a few seconds out of your time to subscribe to us and hit the bell icon so you don't miss any future uploads. And also follow us on all the different social media platforms coming up on the bottom of your screen right now. So yes, the Grip-On Safeweights. They've actually sent me 2 packets. One is 10 gram, one is 15 gram. This is silt in colour, so grams for all the Europeans that use it, but for us, those of us in the UK that still use pounds and ounces, it's 0.35 ounces and 0.5 ounce. So they're very, very lightweight, but they do a job. So the idea of a backlead is that it pins your line down more than what your lead weight at the far end where your terminal tackle is, all the way back to your rod. So whether that be more of a captive backlead, which is one that can be attached to the bank and on a bit of string. I remember using those when I was younger, and that would pin your line down at the very front of your rods and then going out, or you can use just clip-on backleads which slide down your line and position exactly where you want them. You can clip them on if you're going out doing boat work or whatnot. Someone's having a bite. You can put them where you like. Then you've got flying backleads, which are the ones as you cast, they're often designed to be able to catch the wind on the cast, that they fly back and land separate from your rig and pin your line down anywhere from a few feet from your rig to several feet, or like a couple of rod lengths away, but you never really know how far they're going to land. They can inhibit casting and things. So these do have a slightly different way of working, and the name suggests grip-on is that they grip your line. Now to do this, as you can see from the design, nice and close there, you can see at the very top of the weight is a loop. That's where your line goes through. So you attach your line through there nice and simply, and then once your line is on there, as you can see, because of the size of that loop, it runs up and down your line really freely. So in the event of a crack off or a snap up, or when you're playing a fish you lose it, you think, oh, it had all that on it, because that loop is so loose and so big, that line will flow through that so freely that there's next to no risk of a fish still trailing one of these around. So if in the unlikely event or unfortunate event of a crack off, rest assured that these will not be trailed by the carp unless in an extremely unfortunate situation where the lines all tangled up, in which case it doesn't matter what you're using, there may be an issue. So that's the fish safety aspect of them. But as the name suggests, as I keep saying, the grip-on aspect of it, down the very front, it's probably covered by how these are packaged. As you can see from some of the shots, there's a rubber grip. So it's a really, really tight friction fit rubber grip, which you can slot your line into. Now, the reason it's rubber and really tight is it means it doesn't matter what thickness line you're using, you should be able to pull your line into that. So you attach it through that loop, which is freely running, and then you pinch it to the line on exactly where you want it to hold. Once it's gripped onto that line and you lower it into the water, it's not going to slide back, it's not going to slide forward. That is where it's fixed. But don't worry, it doesn't stay there, because if something pulls from one end and you've got the tension from the other, that line pulls tight, and because of the way it's designed, it naturally pulls that line out of that rubber and becomes free running on the line. So then it'll slide all the way down to where your lead is or your rigs are. So it's not like you've got this backlead swinging around far up your line. So don't worry that it's going to grip on that way, but it does stay on long enough that it holds position on the lake bed where you want. It would work with a bait boat or a baiting spoon. So you can put your rig into the spoon or into your bait boat, go back a few feet and clip this on. Because you're not under loads of tension, that should hold all the way out. So then when you drop it, it goes down, your lead will go down one side, the backlead down the other, and it pins down that last few feet or however far back you want these to be pinning down. And you can use more than one, of course. You can use more than one, so you can pin it down right by the rig, and then a bit further back, another one. But remember, as soon as there's friction or tension, from either end, it pings off and slides down your line and is nice and free and nice and safe. So also, the actual fishing situations where you would use these, I tried to mock up a rather makeshift example of if you're fishing on a bit of a plateau, a higher spot in the lake, and then it dips down below, between you and the rod. So you'll have, normally if you weren't using backleads, your line would be going tight across from your rod all the way to your rig. So even if you're on a shelf here and the water dips down here and your rod's here, your line is going to be cutting straight across. But if you're using a bait boat, or your boat and your rig's out, or you're using a baiting spoon, and you attach one of these, say 6 foot back from your line, and you drop your rig on top of that plateau, that backlead will swing round and hug down the back of that bar and pin it down. So instead of having your line bowstring tight across from your rod to the rig, it's now dipping down to where that backlead is, then back up to your line. So it just reduces the risk of fish swimming into your lines, getting false indication, liners, potentially spooking fish off of spots which are a bit more blatant, like on a shelf or whatnot. But you don't have any issues with bite indication, because whereas some backleads, the flying backleads can land really far back. You can find bite indication can be a bit limited, but if you're not clipping this very far back from your rig and they're not that heavy, you should get some pretty good indication still. Of course, any kind of extra weight on your line is going to change how your bite indication is at your end, but that's just the nature of using backleads. Another way of using it is if you are fishing in the margin, so then you can actually still click it on. You can lower your rig in, maybe clip this on and lower it down. If you're fishing far down a margin to your left or right, and you don't want to have bowstring tight straight to your lead, but you want to have it pretty tight down to the backlead, you can do that and still have lots of indication and not have your line up in the water where the fish are potentially feeding and swimming around. So there's lots of different options. Oh, also another one, washing line rig. I can imagine that being a really good method to use with washing line rig. When you're lowering your rig down, pinning the rest of the line down before it comes up out of the water to where you've got your clip. But that's just for me. I love using the washing line method. That is a bit of a rambling on my thoughts on how to use the Grip-On Safeweight, where it would work and how it works. So for more information, do head over to the Pole Position Tackle website, pick some of these up, just give them a try for yourself for $6.99 for 3. It's not breaking the bank, and I think it could be a nice little addition to your tackle box for those situations where these would come in really handy. So I hope that was informative. You like the look of these things and all the other things on the Pole Position website. Do check them out and check other videos we've done previously on them. But for now, I'm going to go home, warm up my toes because it's freezing today.